We are ready when you are, Mr. Mutau.
Thank you, General. If we can then deal with the next topic in your statement, it's governance and reporting structure of the PKTT. And you deal with this commencing from paragraph 67 and following. In 67, you indicate that the PKTT operates with a central command overseeing geographically spread subunits, then based at subs KZN HQ. Perhaps if I can ask you then to take it from there in order to also assist the commission. You remember the chair said when you get to these terms, you should please define them. Yes, if you can proceed from there.
Not the obvious ones like NPA or...
Correct, yes. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Commissioner. The political killings task team was operating with a central command, meaning that the command was in the province under the provincial commissioner, at the subs headquarters in the province, and that office is called Machok, is a joint operational center, which is at the province, and you have got Tech Jocks. Tech Jocks is a tactical operations center, meaning there were 4 of them divided in the province, led by a senior commander comprising of, at those Tech Jocks, they were comprising of subs detectives, intelligence collectors, analysts, combat teams, that is uniform police, the DPCI investigators, and the structure coordinates intelligence and rapid response and prosecution efforts. That is, so there were 4 of those TAC jocks being commanded from the province. The governance and reporting lines of PKTT reflected a multi-layered oversight and operational structure, ensuring clear accountability and coordination amongst key national and provincial stakeholders.
Yes, and then in 68.1, you then deal with the different stakeholders and their role. If I can ask you to deal with that, commencing from 68.1, the IMC.
Yeah, the IMC, chaired by the Minister of Police and Defense, consisted of senior members or consisted of ministers from State Security, Defense, Justice, and Correctional Service. And the IMC was responsible for providing strategic direction over the PKTT, and it reported to the President and the Cabinet in terms of the work of the task team.
And you say it was intended to ensure that the PKTT's activities align with national priorities and receive appropriate guidance at the highest level of government.
That is correct, Commissioner. Then the SAPS subs led the PKTT as the primary agents, contributing investigators, forensic support, crime intelligence resources. The task team is subs-led and include members from DPCI, ensuring a comprehensive approach to investigation. The subs coordinates operational activities and integrate relevant expertise to address politically related or motivated crimes effectively.
Is the NPA?
The National Prosecuting Authority, particularly through its KwaZulu-Natal office, played a key role in embedding prosecutors with the PKTT, and the integration facilitated prosecutorial guided throughout the investigations, ensuring that cases are built to prosecutorial standards and can be effectively presented in court. The SSA supported the PKTT by providing intelligence where applicable, particularly regarding politically targeted killings. These intelligence functions enhance the PKT's ability to anticipate, detect, and respond to threats, thereby strengthening the investigative process. The Department of Correctional Services contributed to the PKTT by assisting with matters such as witness protection and transfer of prisoners from one prison to another when the need arises. This support ensures that the security and the integrity of witnesses and the effective management of individuals in custody who are linked to ongoing investigations and or prosecutions. The provincial government was also part, which they communicated their priorities, their requirements, priorities, and challenges to the PKTT. The Premier and the MEC actively participated in this process at the beginning, representing the interests of the province and ensuring that local concerns were integrated into the broader operational framework.
And if I can just pause here, some of the stakeholders that you mentioned here were also involved as stakeholders in the previous task team. And you spoke about consulting them when that task team was disbanded. You recall in response to the question that you were asked by Commissioner Baloyi, you dealt with and provided your reasons as to why, as stakeholders, they needed to be consulted. If I can ask you to just touch on that point again.
Okay, what I was saying is that as the IMC went to the province of KwaZulu-Natal, they went with their directors generals. So during the meetings, the National Commissioner found it or saw it fit that he consult the other role players because they've got a role to play, which is what I just described now, which everyone have got a role to play. So it was important that he consult them so that they can assist the task team with the role that they are playing. So hence you have seen the NPA must provide prosecutors, the SSA must provide intelligence, the corrections must provide movement or transfers of prisoners. Some of the prisoners or detainees might also be witnesses in other cases, and so it was necessary that that consultation takes place to make the work of the PKTT to be smooth.
And you've shown how integrated each of these services are in the implementation of the plan and the achievement of the objectives.
Correct. Yeah, it was a multi-agency integrated structure, and which was prosecutor-led and coordinated through by all the departments that were represented at IMC level.
And then the next topic that you deal with in your statement is the development and approval of the PKTT strategic framework. And commencing from paragraph 70, you deal with a recommendation that had been made for the adoption of an implementation plan. And you indicate in paragraph 71 that you participated as a member of the team in the process that led to the recommendation of that PKTT implementation plan. And you indicate that that plan is dated 18 June 2018, and that is the plan that we initially dealt with earlier, that information note, recall SFM2. So just for the benefit of the commissioners, that the document that you refer to in paragraph 71 is SFM2, which you already dealt with earlier.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay. And we know then that following the presentation of that plan, you say it was accepted by the then National Commissioner, and thereby establishing a clear and coordinated strategic framework for the PKTT's activities. And if I can then ask you to proceed from paragraph 72, where you deal with the operational chain of command, and in paragraph 73, you deal with the oversight of the PKTT activities.
Thanks, Chair. The operational command of within the PKTT was structured to ensure clear lines of authority and effective coordination of activities. This was achieved by organizing the command through tactical joint operation centers, commanders, and the respective zone or unit leads. These leaders were responsible for managing operations within their designated areas and ensuring that actions were aligned with the overall objective of the PKTT. Oversight of the PKTT's activities was provided by the National Steering Committee, which comprised of senior officials from relevant law enforcement agencies, as well as representatives from, not from IMC. It was only the relevant officials from law enforcement agencies. The committee convened regularly to assess progress, address challenges, and ensure that the team's effort remained focused on its defined mandate.
And if I can just summarize, 74 and 75 deal with the operational model which you set out in parts earlier on. And then in 75, it's the identification of specific operational challenges, and the goal that was sought to be achieved is something that you've already testified on. If I can ask you to then move to the next topic, being the work of the PKTT, commencing from paragraph 76.
Thanks, Commissioners. Since the PKTT was established as a task team, the National Commissioner ultimately had to approve the PKTT's budget. As part of his budget approval process, the project leader, Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo, would prepare an information note which would be verified by the Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant General Mkonazi, and thereafter submitted for recommendation and approval. This information note was essentially a request for extension of the term of the team. When it was established, the PKTT's term was initially 6 months. Therefore, in order for it to continue operating, its term had to be extended for a further 6 months, and budget has to be allocated.
Sorry, if I can then just perhaps to deal with what comes after that, because it deals with aspects that you've already testified on. You indicated that the motivation for extensions would be contained in the information notes. We dealt with one example earlier, where a motivation is outlined. The plan by way of objectives is also dealt with together with the budget and the time frame for which the approval related. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you've also spoken earlier on about the principle of reporting, which was intended to ensure that there was transparency and accountability in respect of the operations of the PKTT. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Yes. And you also indicated your participation in that process for requesting a budget, identifying the term of the extension, and the priorities that were going to be addressed. Correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Yes. Then if I can ask you to move to paragraph 79, where you say, when I was appointed as the National Commissioner.
Thanks, Commissioner. Maybe before I move there, let me just also explain that the team's mandate was extended from 6 months to another 6 months and eventually a year. But then eventually we had to make it permanent. Why it happens that way was that during the first 6 months and the second 6 months, the courts, or whether it's the lawyers or the accused, they will postpone their cases, request a postponement beyond the team's mandate, so that by the time the cases come to court, the team is no more there. So that forced us to end up then saying announcing that the team is permanent, because otherwise cases were not being tried. They would want to know when are they going back. Once they are given the date, then they ask postponement beyond that. So hence we then make the team to say it will be permanent until the political killings subside. Going to paragraph 79, when I was appointed as the National Commissioner in 2022, I was responsible for approving extensions and budget for PKTT. Attached here what I refer to as Financial Authority from June 2018 to June 2025. The relevant extensions and financial authorities or approval are attached as SFM3. I also deal with the June 2025 approval in more detail when I address the events that occurred post the handing over of the 1-to-1 dockets that have become known to all South Africans.
Sorry, Advocate Mutau.
Yes, thanks.
General, the extensions, the various extensions, and then the one where the PKTT's term was made permanent, did those require ministerial approval or IMC approval?
No, they did not need the IMC approval. It only required the National Commissioner, based on what the work that you see, the National Commissioner to approve those extensions.
Thank you. And I think perhaps just if we can deal with SFM3 to make one reference correction in the annexures, where after all the annexures follow the sequence as contained or referenced in your statement. If I can ask you to turn to the second file, SFM3, on page 133. You will see from 133 to 149. That refers to the document that you seek to reference in paragraph 79. Yes, until 149.
That is correct.
And then you will see after 149 to 150. Sorry, from 150 to 153. That is a different document, and you will see when we get to the next paragraphs from 81 to 82. That SFM4 is the document at 150 to 153. So that I just want that to be corrected for the record in terms of that one reference in your statement. Then we'll deal with SM4 in the next section.
Okay.
So SFM3 is supposed to go from 133 to 149. Yes, and then SFM4, you'll see it starts if you go to paragraph 81 of your statement, you speak of the March 24 information note, and that is the one that commences at 150. If you look at paragraph 5 of 150, you'll have 24 to 25 there. And if you go to the signature page at 152, you'll see that's the March 2024 document.
Okay.
I assume this will necessitate movement of the flags.
Movement,
Mr.
yes.
Mutau. So,
Perhaps what could be done is the one should be labeled as, but I mean, we'll address that probably SFM 3.1, and then it doesn't affect the rest of the sequence.
all right. We'll
Yes.
leave it to your juniors to attend
To attend to it, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mutau.
Thank you.
Mr. Mutau, sorry, before you proceed, on a quick scanning of your SFM3,
Yes.
it looks like different periods of requests for extensions.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
I think it'd probably be helpful for the record if you would indicate the first extension date, it's pages so-and-so, and then the next extension date,
Okay.
pages so-and-so.
Yes, we'll do so.
Thank you.
And can I just request that I come back to that at a later stage? Because in paragraph 79, it just simply references the fact that those extensions commence from June
Okay.
2018 to June 2025. I'll just make sure that the extensions are identified in accordance with the request. Okay. Thank you. General, then if we can then come back to your statement. In 81, you deal with, sorry, perhaps before we start with 81, in paragraph 80, you made that point earlier that although it was initially mandated to deal with the political killings in KZN, it was extended to the Eastern Cape to investigate matters and related cases at the University of Fort Hare.
That is correct, Commissioner.
Now, we'll deal with that slightly later. Then in 81, you deal with the extension relating to that March 2024 period. And I had just indicated that the extension approval, which you mentioned in paragraph 82, which is SFM4 on your current statement, it should actually be SFM3, pages 150 to 153. We will attend to the renumbering with the evidence leaders. And perhaps if you could just give an overview of the points that you seek to make in paragraph 81 in relation to the extension of the mandate of the political task team to cover the killing of traditional leaders in KZN.
Thanks, Commissioners. Although initially the team was mandated to work in KwaZulu-Natal, later the team's mandate was extended to the Eastern Cape province to deal most specifically matters that and other related cases at the Fort Hare University And they were quite very successful in that regard. And during March 2024, the team's mandate was once again extended. A decision was taken to extend the mandate and also appointing Kumalo further as the project leader for the financial year. The mandate of the team was extended from 1st April 2024 to include the investigation of cases involving the killing of traditional leaders. This was an outcry that the minister did by then. Minister Kokta and Minister Police indicated that these traditional leaders, as they understand also the presidency, that these cases needs to be prioritized. And I then decided that I extend the mandate of the team to also include cases of traditional leaders. There were parallel major investigations that were still ongoing, like killings at Fort Hare University. There was a potential risk that the courts involving political related cases, especially 49 trial-ready cases and 82 cases that were under investigation at the time, may collapse if we withdraw the team. Incidents of political related cases were expected to increase as we are approaching the elections in 2024 due to unstable coalition governments at various municipalities, especially in KwaZulu-Natal.
And then in paragraph 84, you deal with an invitation from the president for the PKTT to brief, or rather for him to receive a briefing in respect of the operations and the successes of the PKTT at that point. If I can ask you to deal with that, paragraph 83.
Yes.
General, maybe before you, sorry, Mr. Mdo, before you answer the question, in paragraph 81, the extension of the mandate to cover University of Fort Hare and the traditional leaders, who made that decision to extend?
I made that decision because of the outcry that was there.
Can I ask a follow-up question? My understanding is that there were various task teams throughout the country. Why specifically the PKTT? What was it about it?
When the killings did happen, yes, there was the provincial commissioner did put a task team to do investigation, but as we have seen there is no progress, then the reason why we called the PKTT is because of its nature of success. You could see that, if I may go to Fort Hare, the Fort Hare cases were being investigated by the province of Eastern Cape, the SAPS in the Eastern Cape, including the DPCI in that province for quite some time, over a year or so. And there wasn't much of success. And because of this team, one knows how successful it is in most cases. Then we asked that they assist in the Eastern Cape. And indeed, within a short space of time, they were able to resolve most of the cases at the university. Normally, people say that where you have the Kumalo investigating, if there is a case, definitely you will face the full might of the law. So in this case also it proved that way. Thank you.
And when we deal with the documents later, we will show that in respect of both these extensions, the presidency was contacted, both in relation to the extension of the mandate of the PKTT to include the matters at the University of Fort Hare and in the Eastern Cape, and in relation to the killings of traditional leaders. And you will explain at that point with reference to those documents what the reference to the presidency and how that cascaded, if at all, from that to yourself in respect of implementation. But I don't want to take you out of sequence in your evidence. If then you can proceed, subject to the commissioners having finished their questions, to deal with the briefing of the president at the Durban airport following his request.
Yeah, it was. There was an invitation from the president. He was for other work in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and he invited the team on 17 March at Durban Airport, and members of the team, together with myself and the minister, did brief the president on the work of the team. This was the last briefing to the president on the PKTT before his disbandment, and the attached presentation to that is SFM5. So that day they did.
Sorry,
briefing.
just for ease of location, that presentation is at pages 167 to 186 on file 2.
Thank you, Mr. Mtao.
Thank you. We'll come back to some of those details later. Yes, and then you proceed in paragraph 84, and you provide the statistics which you say highlight the successes of the PKTT since its inception in June 2018 until the 28th of February 2025. I can just ask you to deal with those, commencing from 84.1.
Yeah, as at 28th of February 2025, the following statistics highlights the success of the PKTT since 2018. They had 612 dockets that have been allocated. 125 of these dockets are still under investigation. 9 were unfounded. Unfounded means that you can say it's a false case. They were finding a lot of those during the time. And 10 were pending the DPP's decision as to whether to prosecute or not. 114 were at various courts, 57 were withdrawn for various reasons, and 297 were finalized. Finalized means either guilty or no guilty or alternative dispute resolution, whatever the outcome of will it be. The outcome of this highlights both the complexity and the challenges inherent in prosecuting politically related cases. As I said, commissioners earlier, the cases are quite very complex when one investigates them. So they need more skill, more time.
But perhaps if you could just shed some light to the commission, what is it that is complicated about investigating these or prosecuting these politically related cases?
What it entails is that you have somebody, we call it a hit orderer, somebody that orders that somebody be killed, and they have to procure a hitman, which is Nkabi. You must somewhere procure also a firearm, and then at some point, then get the firearm to the Nkabi, and make sure that then the hit is undertaken. So to link all those people.
Sometimes procure spotters as well.
Yeah, sometimes they procure spotters that will check where are the people. So after the killing, sometimes complex, difficult to link all those people. And there are those that have got they've invented some new modus operandis in terms of how they deal with. But I wouldn't say it because it will educate others. So that's how complex it was. And in some cases, especially of cases of intimidation and attempted murders, councillors will go as far as getting into their cars and say somebody must shoot, but just make sure you shoot just on the shoe, don't shoot too deep on the bone. And in that process, sometimes because the person is in the boot, you shoot from outside, always an accident happens, then they get seriously injured. And that was done purely to derive to fight for protection, to say one's bodyguard, I've been shot at. But when investigations at later stage, sometimes it reveals that no, but where you say there was a shooting, it was only you and the protector who was there, or it was somebody, not a protector. So then they will then confess that, yeah, no. I wanted to make sure that I get a budget from municipality for protection. That's how at length they went. So that's why I say these cases are quite complicated.
Okay. And the intervention should be equally sophisticated to deal with them.
Yes. Also, yes, the intervention, because if you use local police, sometimes they know local politicians. It becomes much more easier and for them maybe to be swayed or persuaded in the investigation. Hence, we use members from other provinces. We know it's expensive, but it's worth it, because if we use local police, it's always a problem. And I must say, after the team was there, a lot of people that needed to know the work of the team was quite a lot of them. And we were briefing based on who wants to know what, not briefing everybody on what the team was doing.
And then, in essence, between paragraph 86 to 90, you continue to set out the statistics that highlight the successes of the PKTT. I don't need you to deal with those, because the commission will see the figures as they are outlined there. But there are 2 points that I'd like you to deal with from those paragraphs. In paragraph 86, you make a point that in your view, the PKTT is hugely successful. And you say, as will be dealt with in detail later, on 6 March 2025, Lieutenant General Khumalo presented the PKTT's successes to Minister Senzo Mchunu in an effort to convince him that his decision to disband the PKTT was ill-advised, to the extent that he was advised at all. If I can just ask, maybe just for you to explain to the Chair and the Commissioners, what point do you seek to make here?
Yeah, the point I seek to make here on paragraph 86 was that, well, we know that the team was successful, commissioners, in doing its work. So on the 6th of March, there was invitation for the minister to go and discuss the disbandment plan. You'd recall that the minister issued the letter 31st December to disband the team. So I did seek audience immediately thereafter, which it never come quicker. If ever we met on other matters, but not on this one. So 6 March, the purpose was to discuss the disbandment plan. But then we then put also a summary of the success of what the team has done, even though we know that it was sent to the minister's report of the 20th of January. The aim was, of course, also to maybe convince him to think otherwise about the team at this particular
General,
meeting.
sorry to interrupt you. Not at all questioning your assertion with regard to success, but I just want to understand it. You referred to 612 dockets, and you say of those, 297 were finalized. That's at 84.7. Can you please just explain how exactly you measure success? 612 and 297 finalized. I do see that's very close to 50%.
Yeah, finalize, commissioners, I might not have the exact figures here, which I'm sure General Kumalo will bring it on board later. It means that it's cases that are finalized, be it...
No, you did explain that. You did explain what finalized mean. What I want to focus on now is the assertion that the PKTT is hugely successful. And I'm not questioning that. I'm not suggesting that it is not hugely successful. I just want to understand how you measure success.
Oh, thanks, Commissioner. How we measure success, we measure it in terms of cases where the team did get a conviction. That's how we measure success. That is cases where there is convictions, even if there is no sentencing yet, but once there is conviction, then that we counter as a success. Detection of suspects and getting them for court, and eventually, if there is a conviction, then that is the success.
I don't know to what extent this may be of relevance to the findings and possibly even recommendations we make at the end. But regarding head to the fact that you said finalized encompasses different categories of finalization, and you are now focusing on convictions, and we are looking at 297, which is a figure relating to all those categories. So it makes it very difficult for one to have a sense of, for example, the convictions, because with regard to success, you seem to focus on convictions. So if you have this globular total, you have no idea as to what exactly the success is if one looks at convictions. But I guess it would be very unfair of me to require you to give those statistics here if you do not have them in your affidavit. Perhaps let's leave it there.
Thanks, Chair. General, did I understand you correctly when you said Lieutenant General Kumalo is going to deal with this issue in more detail?
That's correct.
Did I understand you correctly?
That's correct, Commissioner. He will deal with the details of that.
And he will provide those statistics.
That is correct.
Mr. Medau, perhaps General Kumalo will deal with it. You will indicate if that's the intention.
Yes.
But it's a slightly different angle and a follow-up on the chair's question. Now, in this presentation to the President, General, and I'm looking at page 168, and in paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bullet point 5, you say, as of July 2018, the team is allocated and accounts for 329 dockets of politically related cases. That is the presentation in March 2014, And then in your statement at paragraph 84.1, you say since June 2018, the PKTT has 612 dockets allocated to it. Should we read this to mean that the difference between 612 and the 329 as at March 2024 is in fact the increase in dockets from April 24 to
February 25.
Yeah, is that what it means? Or is it just a case of how the evidence is presented, Mr. Mutau, that there's no detail and a bit of it is lost in there somewhere?
Sorry, Commissioner, you say on...
So if you look at 168, bundle B, or the second bundle, that's a presentation to the President. And bullet point 5, you say that at July 2018, 329 dockets had been allocated as of July 2018. So as a date of presentation from July 2018, at least that's how I read it, the PKTT had 329 dockets as at the date of your presentation in March 2024. And then your statement says as at February 2025, which is a year later, the PKTT has 612 dockets. Is that an indicator of the growth in dockets? Is it a question of the numbers? Because it's like a 50%, nearly 50% increase in dockets in 1 year.
Yeah, it's an increase from 329 to then the current, which is 612. Is an increase of extra allocation of dockets.
So as at the time that the minister makes the decision to disband, you're now dealing in the region of about 612
Yes, that's
dockets.
correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're about to touch on paragraph 86, and you were dealing with reference to a meeting of 6 March 2025, which we know, which you say you will deal with it in detail a little later. But in this paragraph, you talk about a presentation of the statistics that were presented to the minister at that meeting, and those statistics are the ones that I didn't deal with earlier on. If you go over the page, 27. There is what you call a detailed breakdown of the 333 dockets. You see that? And
yes, Commissioner.
yes, and you deal with them from 86.1 to 86.5. And then in 87, you deal with how they were allocated. You see that?
Yes.
From 87.1 until 87.3. That's how you deal with the allocation of the 333 dockets.
Yes, Commissioner.
And then in paragraph 88, you deal with the 18 dockets that pertained to the incidents of killings at the University of Fort Hare. And you break those down into 14, 2, and 2. You see that?
Correct, Commissioner.
And then in paragraph 89, you deal with the team having been further allocated 51 dockets that are associated with matters targeting traditional leaders. And you break those down into 48 and 3. You see that?
Please,
Correct,
Please,
Commissioner.
please hold your thought and don't forget where you were, Mr. Mutau.
Thank you.
General, can you please explain the 333 dockets at the top of page 27? Where does that number come from? The last number that had been referred to was the 612 at 84.1. And then at 86, just before 86.1, there's reference to 333 dockets. Where does that come from?
The 333, if I go back and look at it, it will come from the same 612. It's not an extra number above 612. It comes from the same 612. What I need to just probably go and check back is the 297, because as to the 297 and the 333.
Perhaps if you turn to page 411, it might assist.
411.
411.
That's under SFM 12.
Mr. Mtau, I realize that we didn't give your bundles any name, and I'm worried that the record might just struggle you moving between the two bundles, and it's not clear for purpose of the record that now you're referring to a different bundle.
So, Commissioner, we had said file 1 and file 2.
So
maybe-
Masemola.
Yeah, maybe for uniformity, what we did, sorry, my co-commissioner, what we did with General Mukwanazi's files, we call them Mukwanazi 1 and Mukwanazi 2. So perhaps we should, for uniformity, do something similar here. And for the statement, we call that Masemola 1. And then the annexures Masemola 2. And then when council refers to them, you do the same. Thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Commissioners.
Wallo.
Yes, National Commissioner, I directed you perhaps in that discussion with the chair regarding 333 dockets to page 411 of Masemola 2. And then perhaps you could explain it from there.
Okay, thanks, Commissioners. If you go to Masemola 2, ne?
Yes. And also bearing in mind what the chair's question is. The
Yes.
chair's question is relative to the number of 612 that you had provided as being the total number of dockets. Where does 333 come in?
Correct.
Or fit
So if you go to is SFM 12 on page 412, right at the bottom left, you'll find the 612 dockets totally that was allocated to the team. That is the total. And then when you go to page 411 of the same document, on the top left corner, you'll find the 333 cases. And if you look at the topic of that is political related cases, there were 333 totally for the whole period. And then the breakdown comes there. Just the writing is not so good.
So which one are you looking at?
The
Do you want to deal with parallel cases or you want to deal with ad hoc cases?
the breakdown of the 333 is on the
Yes, on the top column.
on the top column. There is 53, 3, 2, 1, 1, 7, 4, 6, 11. So what I was saying was that the topics on top are just not readable, but that's where the 333 refers to political related cases of the 612. And then the 90 below refers to parallel cases of the same 612. And then the 120 on the same page is ad hoc cases, 120 of the same of the same 612.
But perhaps to assist the commission, what are parallel cases and what are ad hoc cases?
Parallel cases.
I'm aware that you said General Kumalo will give
Yes.
more detail on this, but
Yeah.
the commissioners need the information now to make sense of these
Yes.
numbers.
Parallel cases are those cases where they will find that their suspect, beside them investigating him for political related case, they find that this fellow have also committed, let's say, robbery somewhere. Either a robbery of common robbery, then that case will be, is not political related. So meaning it's not necessarily the mandate of this team, but they are investigating this suspect. Then they will take that case to make it as a parallel case.
Okay.
And then ad hoc cases also are those cases that are necessarily not political related, but the same accused might have been arrested for possession of illegal firearm at a different police station or in an unrelated matter. But then the team, in order to bring these cases together to know better their client, then they will take those cases and investigate them. So those cases are not political related, but their client is involved in those cases. And then traditional leadership cases.
This is over the page at 412.
Yeah, if you turn the page
Yeah,
from
412.
411 to,
Just over the page.
yes. Traditional related cases relate to killings of traditional leaders, be it the Nkosis and the Indunas. And not necessarily killings alone, it might also mean attempted murders and so on. And then University of Fort Hare cases, those were cases of murder and fraud and corruption and so on at the University of Fort Hare. And the last column is the overall total of 612. But I must go back to the parallel cases and the ad hoc cases. I would want to leave that also more specifically for General Kumalo to come and explain the detailed difference between the two. Don't want to conclude on that one.
Yes, but,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mutau. This clarifies it, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you to you as well, General.
Thanks, Commissioner.
General, in paragraph 90 of your statement, the last sentence, you say the PKTT has an unmatched success rate. Now, I want to bring you back to paragraph 84, perhaps to to further clarify the question that the chair was asking. If one is merely looking at 612 dockets, and of those, 297 were finalized, it would appear just on the face of that there are less cases that were finalized than the cases that had been allocated. You see that? Because if you just look at 612 and subtract 297 from that number.
Correct.
It would be less than half the total number of dockets.
Correct.
And I think it is in that context that the chair is asking the question to say, how do you then measure success? Particularly with reference to the point you make in paragraph 86 and the last sentence that I referred you to in paragraph 90 of your...
Factoring into that, the fact that finalization does not mean convictions only. There are several categories under that term. So the 297 in terms of convictions is even reduced further, as it were. So please respond to Mr. Mutau's question.
Thanks, Commissioner. The finalization in this regard, we'll recall that the dockets of at Fort Hare University, there has been arrest made. Those cases are still at court, have not yet finalized, because the trial of this type of cases take long. And also take into account that I think it was over 51 of the traditional leaders' dockets. The team only took those dockets in 2024. So there couldn't have been more move in terms of investigation of those cases. So, and it doesn't mean that they might have made a lot of arrests, but the cases will still be at court and not finalized as we mean in terms of conviction. So that's the difference. It's not expected that if they've got 612 dockets, there shall be 612 convictions. No, it doesn't work that way. They might have made arrests, but cases take time. We can refer to this very same year. We might have seen a number of convictions coming from the very same cases of the team that comes a long way.
So perhaps it may be shortchanging the PKTT to focus on convictions only. I would imagine that, and I think it is stated somewhere in your affidavit, there may be instances where there is no movement at all in terms of detection and arrests. But upon the PKTT taking over, there's suddenly movement in that regard. And you get arrests, and you get people appearing in court. So it may not necessarily lead to convictions in the end, but the fact that suddenly there's movement,
correct,
does make a difference.
That's correct, Commissioner. Especially if we look at the Fort Hare one, there was no movement at all. But after the team intervened, people were arrested, people were brought at court. So then the cases are still in the process at the court.
Of course, one assumes that the arrests would not be arrests for the sake of it, and that it would be arrests that are justified in the circumstances.
Yes, correct, Commissioner.
Mr. Mutau, if I may, you, General, in that paragraph 90 rather, you say that the PKTT has an unmatched success rate. Obviously, you and the minister disagree. In his letter, we know he says that it adds no value, or some language to that effect. Now, when you say the success is unmatched, what are your comparators? What is your point of reference against which you are comparing to say the success of the team is unmatched?
Yeah, it will be difficult to match the work of the team with a province or a district because they work across. When one uses that word unmatched, is that there is cases that they would have been dead with no progress. But once you get this team into that case, you will see movement, you'll see arrests. Like, let's go back, I think somewhere we talk about a number of cases which the team had somewhere in 2018, which come from the previous team with very little success. But after this team was then put into work, they were able to make a breakthrough in a lot of those cases. The next example in point is the Fort Hare. Like I was saying, some of the fraud cases there in Fort Hare, the DPCI has been investigating them for more than a year. And we haven't had a breakthrough. But after we got this team at Fort Hare, there was a progress on murders, frauds, and corruption. So that's what one refers to, that they bound to make a breakthrough. We can go as far as in Gauteng province, where we had cases of murders and drugs related, which after the team seek the Gauteng team seek assistance of KwaZulu-Natal, and we allowed 10 members of the political killings task team to assist Gauteng. They started making a breakthrough, and also they unraveled more than what the team in Gauteng would have found. So that, in its case, in its nature, we are saying that the team is a success. If the KwaZulu-Natal political killings task team members didn't come to Gauteng, we would not have the current rate of unraveling, the arrest of Abu Mulefe, the arrest of Abu Ket, and of course there's still others on the line that still needs to be processed. So by saying that their success is unmatched, that's what we refer. But then saying on the minister's letter that he assessed and there was no value, I don't know what that statement is come from. I don't know the assessment, when, where was it done, with who, I don't know. Well, probably that may come later, but I don't know what assessment was done. But what we know is what I'm sure everybody knows, everybody sees. A lot of convictions that are happening even now for cases, and the team is still doing its work, and they are quite successful.
Thanks. And we'll deal with that part when you deal with your interaction with the minister. But one of the things that you mentioned there is that there are 3 people who had information that is relevant in respect of the activities of the PKTT, and you say it is yourself, General Khumalo, and General Mkhwanazi, and that none of you were consulted by the minister to receive a briefing on the activities of the task team. Without necessarily going into detail, because I know that we will deal with that issue, but perhaps you could just highlight very briefly that point. with reference to with Commissioner Baloyi's question, based on the minister's letter and what the minister says.
Okay, thanks, commissioners. With regard to that, in the letter where the minister says, after assessment, the team is not adding value to subs or to the country. I can't recall the exact wording. I'm sure for one to come to that conclusion, yes, you must have done assessment. And when you do assessment, obviously you will talk to people that are dealing with the matter at hand. In this case is the PKTT. So in order for one to have had briefing of the PKTT, the minister would have definitely have briefing from General Mkonazi, or have briefing from Dumisani Kumalo, or had briefing from myself. To an extent, maybe 30% maybe should have had briefing from Lieutenant General Libya, because Lieutenant General Libya, at some point, he headed the National Steering Committee. But it didn't go far. He left it. So he wouldn't know the complete work of the team. There is no way he will know it. So then to come to that conclusion without having this briefing, I wonder who briefed him, because that's for sure I know. There is nobody that knows the work of the team than those, unless you go to the junior commanders of the team, which we inquired, and that is not the case. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to that issue when like I indicated, we deal with your statement in relation to the interactions that you had with the minister, and when in relation to the minister's decision of 31 December, where those engagements held. But if I can just perhaps touch on one aspect in relation to the activities of the PKTT. And I'm aware that Major General Kumalo will deal with that aspect, among other things, when he goes into detail regarding the PKTT's operations. But one of the aspects that you mentioned earlier is the difference between getting to the hitman and getting to the mastermind. And one of the methods through which the PKTT operates is that it does not deem it sufficient to merely arrest the hitmen, and that there may be instances where they do know who the hitmen are, but in order to resolve the crime in its entirety, they may decide not to arrest the hitmen that are known because they want to get to the bigger fish, for lack of a better description. If you could just perhaps touch on it, because earlier on you as you're distinguishing the different role players, one of the models upon which the PKTT operates is that one. If I can just ask you to very briefly touch on it.
Yeah, thanks, commissioners. Well, investigation, as the team do investigation, they apply a lot of strategies. At some point, they'll throw their dockets together and allow them to swim, and so that they can see which direction should they go without rushing to get to arrest the hitmen, because sometime if they do that, they will lose the rest of the chain. So sometime they will identify some spotters and start with them in order to get to the mastermind, or use even the hitmen for information purposes and collection. So they were applying various methodologies which are legal, and there is nothing wrong or illegal in them. But their strategies, was that they wouldn't just rush to arrest a specific person for the sake of arresting, they will investigate their cases thoroughly and determine in the whole value chain of the hit orderer, the spotters, the one that procure the firearm, the Ngabi, they will determine where to start, which way to move forward or move backwards. So they will always use those strategies. That's how the team became successful.
In fact, I was going to ask you that are those considerations relevant in determining the success and the statement that you make when you say their success rate is unmatched?
Yeah, indeed, it does also indicate their. Yeah, it does talk to them being successful because they do untangle sometime cases that would have been closed as either become cold case or they are not resolved.
I think we can just leave that aspect. Major General Khumalo will deal with it as the person with the details. If I can then ask you to turn to page 29, your paragraph 91 of Masemola 1. You deal there with the point that the IMC was regularly briefed on the progress and success of the PKTT, and you attach the different presentations that were made to the PKTT on 3 August 2018 until 6 September 2023. And those are attached as Annexure SFM 6. Is that correct? Yeah.
That's correct, Commissioner.
And that, for the benefit of the Commission, it starts at pages 191 to 359 of Masemola 2.
Mr. Mutau, will you with this as well, as you requested previously, please?
Yes. Well, yes, I'll do that in line with the earlier request.
Okay.
When we deal with some of the relevant aspects in those presentations. But perhaps where I'd like us to start with the contents of that paragraph is the second part, where you say, as far as I'm aware, there were no further IMC meetings after the 6th of September 2023. Now, would that period extend until the minister took a decision to disband the task team? In other words, between the period 6 September 2023 to 31 December 2024? Is that period covered by the statement that, as far as you are aware, there were no further IMC meetings?
Yeah, that is correct, Commissioner. Since that was the 6th September 2023, which is referred to as SFM 7, is the last IMC briefing that was done.
Then you continue to make the point in the next sentence to further illustrate the point that the PKTT was viewed as effective. I was able to source the media briefing held by former Minister of Police, Minister Cele, wherein he expressed the IMC's positive view of the PKTT and its successes. And you refer to Annexure SFM 7. And if I can ask you to turn to page 360 of Masemola 2. And if I can ask you to deal with the first 6 paragraphs on that page, you will see it is The document is headed Speaker Notes from the police minister at the time, Minister General Bheki Cele, on behalf of the IMC on political killings in KwaZulu-Natal, and it was delivered on the 6th of September 2023. And then just after, ladies and gentlemen, if I can ask you to just deal with those paragraphs that follow. From I address until just before, ladies and gentlemen of the media.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. In that press briefing, which was hosted by the then minister, he says, I addressed this media briefing this morning on behalf of the Interministerial Committee on Political Killings, consisting of Minister of State Security, Defense, Justice and Correctional Services, and myself, the Minister of Police, who also chairs the IMC. The IMC held this meeting on Tuesday in Durban, where it was presented with a detailed briefing on the work of the Integrated Multidisciplinary Task Team investigating political killings in KwaZulu-Natal since 2018 to date. In its 5 years of existence, the committee has provided the nation with several updates. The last one took place in February 2022. The committee remains committed to encouraging political tolerance by individuals and parties, whether before, during, or after elections period and beyond. However, through the integrated work of the task team, the IMC is as committed to arrest those who use violence to settle political scores. This task team includes the SAPS, NPA supported by State Security Agency and Correctional Services, the Premier and MEC for Community Safety and Liaison of KwaZulu-Natal. It is on this score that the IMC wishes to categorically put it on record that the initial mandate given to the committee by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa in 2018, not to allow KZN to be a killing field, is still on course.
And then if I can ask you to please turn to page 362 under the heading Regional Stability. And if I can ask you to first deal with the first paragraph under that heading.
It says, members of the media, with each update on the IMC on the work of the task team, it is becoming increasingly clear that the team is working with purpose, agility, and is focused on producing results. Prior to the establishment of the task team, we know that cases were not properly investigated, which often led to suspects not being arrested.
And then if I can ask you to skip the following paragraphs and deal with the last one just before, ladies and gentlemen. The IMC. The one that says the IMC is encouraged.
Yes. The IMC is encouraged that interventions are in place to deal with all forms of politically related crimes proactively and reactively in the eThekwini and in the Zululand district.
And then if I can please ask you to turn to page 369 and deal with the conclusion.
Mr. Madau, maybe before you leave this page, top of the page 362, General, would that not be considered a success? What is set out on top of page 362?
The one that says the task team is conducting intelligence-driven operation targeting possession of licensed firearms, which has resulted in 172 cases. Over 250 unlicensed firearms have been taken off the street through the police operations. It is regarded as a success, but however, this specific cases will fall either on that category of ad hoc
Yes.
or parallel.
Yes.
But I think
Remember,
it's more ad hoc. But it's a
when
success.
Chairperson was asking you, when you say the task team was hugely successful, what does success mean? And at that time, you limited it only to convictions. Now,
Okay.
my question is, if they remove 250 unlicensed firearms from the streets, which I assume could be used for later killings, is that not a success of the task team?
Well, it is a success, Commissioner. Sometimes one sees things as obvious, so you don't, because to me it's obvious, so you sometimes not mention them. But indeed, that is a success.
Thank you. If I can then ask you to turn to page 369 and to deal with the conclusion.
In conclusion, on behalf of the IMC, I wish to dispel any notion that seeks to cast doubt in the work of the task team investigating political killings in KZN. Today's briefing has not only demonstrated the progress in the work that falls within the mandate of the task team, it has also revealed the continuous efforts by the task team to ensure that firearms linked to crime scenes and taken off the streets. The work of the task team has been commendable and is fully supported by the IMC. The committee encourages enhanced and maintained collaboration between departments of police, state security, national prosecuting authority, justice and correctional services in order to stabilize political violence in the province and beyond. The work of the task team extends beyond the KZN borders. Its work has also been exemplary in the investigation and ultimate breakthrough of the murder cases in the Fort Hare University in the Eastern Cape, where 8 people have been arrested and brought before the courts. The task team is also assisting in investigating in the Limpopo and Mpumalanga province. Lastly, as we edge closer to the national general elections next year, the efforts are being solidified to boost the work of the IMC as well as investigations. In enhancing the work of the task team, the IMC has resolved that there will be dedicated courts to speedily prosecute these matters. The IMC again calls for political parties to strengthen internal mechanism to diffuse inter and or intra tensions and instability that may escalate and lead to political attacks and killings. I thank you.
And if I can just ask you to turn back to your statement and please deal with...
Before moving on, this is the Minister Cele says this a year, 3 months before the disbandment instruction. So for the picture to be complete, you would have to touch on whether anything that tended to detract from what the minister says here had happened during that period, 1 year, 3 months. Had anything happened that detracted from the positive remarks by Minister Cele?
No, Commissioner, there was nothing that negative that we could have said happened with the task team that might have changed opinions. The task team kept on doing good work all the way.
Thank you.
Maybe just to complete that, did the IMC, between the period after the former minister made that statement and before the disbandment, ever express any dissatisfaction about the work of the PKTT and not achieving its mandate?
No, I must also say that normally IMC's lifespan is the administration of the specific government in place. So there wasn't IMC appointed, but there were ministers in those departments. But from either of those ministers and or my own minister, there was never any expression of dissatisfaction about the work of the task team.
Dissatisfaction, you mean?
Yeah,
There was never an expression of any dissatisfaction.
there was never expression of any dissatisfaction from any minister, including Minister of Police.
Yes, no, we'll deal with that, because you then say, when you deal with that letter, you say it came as a shock and a surprise. But let's deal with it when we get to that point.
Mr. Mtau, before you proceed.
Yes, Commissioner Madlanga.
In this media statement, General, in that last page, 370, there's now a reference to the task team assisting in Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces. You haven't said anything about it in your statement, and neither did General Mkhwanazi speak to Limpopo and Mpumalanga. Do you care to share any more detail?
We did wanted to expand to those two provinces, and we did have a meeting once with the ministers and the officials of the National Steering Committee at some point in Limpopo, more specifically at Mogalakwena, to go and assess the killings. They were mostly in Mogalakwena and Vembe, which is Twando. And in that assessment, we found that the provincial team is on course. They don't need any assistance. And so there was no further necessity to go and assist in that specific province. In Mpumalanga, there were cold cases that we needed to relook at, and that has never happened. We never extended to get to Mpumalanga. It was something that will still be done.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. General, if I can ask you to turn back to your statement and deal with paragraph 92. You say the narrative that the PKTT was not effective is completely false. Can I ask you to deal with that?
Thanks, commissioners. On paragraph 92, I'm saying that the narrative that the PKTT was not effective is completely false. If at any point I was convinced that the PKTT was no longer effective, I would not have approved its extensions and budgets, which had to be considered twice a year. Hence my astonishment when I learned that the minister had issued a directive to me to implement his decisions to disband the PKTT. I'm convinced that if the minister had made himself available for briefing and engaged me with an open mind prior to issuing the disbandment directive, he would not have disbanded the PKTT. But I must also say that, of course, on the renewal authorities, financial authorities, now and then you will find, maybe especially the CFO, questioning the long lifespan of the team. I mean, the CFO, you have got a right to question those. CFO normally don't know what is happening in the field, what we are dealing with. So we do accept that now and then CFO will query that. Will at some point she'll say, but why don't you make a unit? The reason why you don't make a unit, once you make a unit, then it's a unit of KwaZulu-Natal. Then you are back to square one, unfortunately. So, whereas here you have members of the team, they are not permanently there. They stay there for 2-3 months. They go home in their various provinces for a month or two. Then they come back as and when their cases are coming to court or to beef up the team. So that model worked for us the best because they don't belong to the province. They don't get involved in local politics whatsoever. So thanks.
Thank you. If we can then go to the next topic that you deal with in your statement, which is Gauteng counterintelligence operation, commencing from paragraph 93. And it goes all the way until paragraph 100. If I can ask you, in the paragraph 93, you refer to the fatal shooting of an employee of an entity called QTech in Vereeniging. If I can just ask you to start there and tell the Commission about the events of 17 April 2024.
Yeah, Commissioners, on the 17th of April 2024, Amaswart, an employee of an entity called QTech in Vereeniging, was fatally shot while seated in his car outside his workplace. The employer, which is QTech, had reportedly identified price inflation in a Transnet contract, which subsequently exposed a complex web involving organized crime, police corruption, and significant personal risk for those conducting the investigation. The organized crime unit in Gauteng, under the leadership of Deputy Provincial Commissioner Mbuso Khumalo, assumed the responsibility for investigating Mr. Swart's murder. This case became integrated into the broader Gauteng crime intelligence operation. 3 suspects were apprehended in connection with this murder. First one being Michael Puletau, a police officer. Musakekana, Tiero Floyd Denny Mabusela. The charges included murder, conspiracy, attempted murder, possession of suspected stolen property, and possession of unlicensed firearm and ammunition. Forensic examination linked the recovered firearms to several other violent crimes, thereby consolidating the cases against the accused and revealing a larger syndicate allegedly offering nearly R1 million for assassination. Although bail was successfully opposed initially, the accused Michael Puletau was later released on bail on account of health grounds. This development raised considerable concern among the investigators and prosecutors due to the increasing threats, including both verbal and physical intimidation, such as being followed and threatened with harm. Consequently, on the 5th of August 2024, the SPP formally communicated the threats to senior police officials, including myself. In the correspondence, the SPP requested urgent protection measures for the investigators. The letter of the SPP...
and those measures are set out in that letter.
In that letter.
Which is at 371 to 372 of Masemola 2.
Thanks, Commissioners. Yeah. Paragraph 98, in accordance with SAP's procedure, Major General Mbuso Khumalo conducted a threat and risk analysis supported by Major General Kalakala, who's Gauteng Head of Intelligence, and together with Colonel Ntuli, who completed the assessment, concluding that the risk level was high and recommended a 24-hour protection. Subsequently, the matter was escalated to National Office and a parallel counterintelligence case was initiated along the primary investigation. Lieutenant General Dumisani Kumalo, the divisional commissioner, was brought into the picture. And given the apparent association of sub-officials of various ranks, with individuals under investigation, the threats directed towards investigators, allegations of bribery involving magistrates, linked to the cartel, concern over police infiltration, and the reduction of the investigation team from 5 to 2 members, particularly due to the threats, it was deemed necessary for Lieutenant General Dumisani Kumalo to urgently request external assistance. The request was directed to Lieutenant General Mkhonazi, who then seconded 10 members of the PKTT.
Sorry, yes. And can I just ask you, sorry, can I just stop you there?
Okay.
Sorry, Chair. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mtao. Can you just explain, you'll forgive me if it's been explained, but can you just explain the reduction of the investigation team from 5 to 2?
Commissioner, what it means is that the investigation of the murder of Amaswart, at some point there were 5 investigators. Because of the threats that were directed to this team, some of the members left the team, and there were only 2 left to carry on with the investigation. Sometimes you would want to force members to continue doing a certain work, but at some point when you realize that it might not assist, because you require certain braveness to do certain things, then they had to reduce from 5 to 2.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mtao.
Thanks, Chair. And that led to the request for capacitating that team with the secondment of the 10 members. That's the point you make in the last sentence of that paragraph.
That is correct, Commissioner, and it was brought to my attention and I approve of it.
Yes. But there's something I needed to get you to clarify in paragraph 99. When you talk about allegations of bribery involving magistrates, and perhaps let me just stop there and deal with that one. As I understand, these are only allegations at this stage, but those are still being investigated and looked into. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is allegations that were made specifically in this case, where I'm aware that the 2 investigators, at some point, they were told by one of the seniors that there is 3 envelopes ready, and that one envelope is for the 2 of them, the other envelope is for the prosecutor, and the 3rd envelope is for the magistrate. So that is, of course, allegation. From my side, it's a hearsay, but I'm sure General Kumalo could talk more on that. But it's still under investigation.
Yes, I think the point, perhaps the focus is that those are not concrete findings as yet, but they are allegations that are being looked into. I think that's more the point that I was trying to establish there with regard to those allegations.
That is correct, Commissioner.
That's correct. And equally with regard to the links to cartel members and the concerns over police infiltration, that equally has that status, that it's allegations that are being looked into at this stage.
Yes, it is allegations, yes, that is under investigation, and it might not be a good thing to expatiate more than that.
Okay. Right. And then in paragraph 100, you conclude by indicating that those members that were seconded to the Gauteng team were then integrated into that Gauteng investigation team. But the dockets were never transferred to the PKTT. If I can just ask you to explain that, the integration of the members into the Gauteng investigation team without the PKTT dockets being transferred.
Yeah, what we mean by that is that the members that came from KwaZulu-Natal came to assist the two colleagues in Gauteng. But what they were investigating was never taken to KwaZulu-Natal to form part of the political killings task team. Those dockets remain in Gauteng under, of course, this team.
After the lunch adjournment, subject to the commissioners agreeing that it's a convenient time to take lunch, you are going to be dealing with the arrests of Mr. Molefe and Mr. Madlanga.
Let us indeed take the lunch adjournment now and resume at 2 o'clock. Thank you.